I'm Simone. That's my artist name. You can see my full name as well on the screen. And I am a singer-songwriter, and I also produce music. I also sing with a band called Moon Collective, and I just write a lot of songs. And finally I can perform again, also in real life, but this time it's also nice to do it online anyway. So really great to be here. And this song that I'm going to sing for you today is called Silver Line. And I thought it was really nice for the theme today, because it is about kind of self-exploration. And I was actually feeling really sad when I wrote it, and I was just reflecting on what I try to think about when I'm not feeling that well. So yeah. I thought I had walked on a silver line, but then I looked back and tried to tell myself I was fine. So I hid in someone else's dream, inspired as it seemed. I still needed to work on my healing, like a boat that never rushed to shore, a monsoon that never poured. An angel's telling me you will be okay. You've been here before, you got through it the other day. My mind is running miles for a silver line. Feel like I'm losing time when my demons stay, like a boat that never rushed to shore, a monsoon that never poured.
So I'm Kelly Dekker, and I'm a sport and performance psychologist working at the High Performance Academy. And I'm dedicated to lifting performances and lives of performers, artists, creatives, and many other high performers. And I'm not going to do this talk by my own, so I'm getting the guest speaker, and then be back. Hi there. I'm Katinka, and I'm Kelly's mind, and I'm here to make sure she doesn't do any stupid things. So I'm here to remind her that things can go horribly wrong, terribly wrong, She can say stupid things. There are people sitting there and think about what is she saying? Her English sucks, you know. So that's why I'm here, to remind her of that. So last night, I woke her up in the middle of the night saying, hey there, I see you're trying to sleep. Can I interest you of a list of everything that can go wrong tomorrow? She looked a bit stressed, tossed and turned a bit, right? And yeah, well, that's her problem, of course. And also this morning, I woke her up really early, even before her 1-year-old son woke up. And I told her, like, can you remember that awkward moment 4 years ago? Right? And yeah, you really had to see her face when she remembered it. And whoa. All right. All right, Katinka, I'll take it from here. Thank you. So I guess you got introduced to my mind, Katinka. She is quite a perfectionistic type. She always wants me to do things perfectly. Otherwise, I can just stop it, right? Don't do it. And she's there to save my life, basically, to protect me from all the dangers in the world. And that comes from evolution. So when we were back in prehistoric times and we were in caves, there were 2 things important. One, keep surviving, right? So better to skip lunch than to be lunch. So we constantly had to scan for dangers, bears and saber-toothed tigers, things like that. The second thing that is really important in the time at caves was that people kind of liked you. Because when they didn't like you, you were on your own, and killing a saber-toothed tiger by your own is quite hard, right? So fast forward, we're hundreds of thousands of years ahead, but our minds are still wired in the same way, and we're still looking out for dangers all the time. So what are the dangers now, right? For example, writing a book, because it has to be perfect. Publishing a book, releasing a song, show your drawings on Instagram, sell your drawings for a decent price. You cannot ask that price. It's too high for what you made, right? And also giving talks, that's also a danger. And I'm wondering if you maybe recognize this voice in your head, and if you recognize your mind looking out for all the dangers in your world. Most of the time, our minds are really panicking and freaking out and shout to us to stop doing exciting, new and big things because it's not good enough, or we're not good enough, right? And that's, of course, really annoying, but please know that your mind is there to protect you. That's your mind's job. That's the only thing that we're programmed for. So it just wants you to be safe and in the cave, so nothing happens, because there can be a bear outside, right? But if we stay in the cave, we're not seeing the blue sky, we're not, grow, we're not do exciting things, and we just, stay safe. So what can we do? We can think our minds. We can say, thank you, Katinka. I hear your advice. Thank you for trying to protect me, and I'm still going to do it. Like the time that I got this big project, and Katinka popped up in my mind and says, maybe a colleague can do this. You haven't done this before, so don't do it. Ask a colleague. And I looked into my heart and felt like, okay, one of my values is growth. So I thanked Katinka for her advice, and I did it anyway. So we can do things, although our minds think we cannot do it. And what I'm inviting you, I'm inviting you to come up with a name for your mind. what type of character is your mind? You know, when does it freak out? When does it really panic? Get a relationship with your mind. Get to know your mind. I really sometimes have to laugh about my mind. She even can be funny. And I'm inviting you to just follow your heart and do exciting things, even though our Katinkas say that we cannot do it. Thank you. Also, from Katinka. I don't think so. What I'm trying to do at least is getting people in touch with their values. And I really think they are in your heart, right? So the voice is in your head. And that's the voice that say you have to do this, you don't have to do this. So it's more of a way to say, I am not my thoughts. By literally giving your thoughts a name, your mind a name, you're literally saying, I'm not my thoughts. You know, my thoughts doesn't have any, my thoughts don't have any arms and legs. I have arms and legs, you know, so I can take charge and I'm listening to it, but I can choose for myself to do something else. So I think most of the time your mind is just telling you things, and maybe what you feel in your stomach is just like, you know, the butterflies and stuff, but they should be there because with exciting things come exciting feelings. That's normal, right? So we don't need to panic for feeling feelings, because emotions want to be felt. That's their job. And we can respond to them, and we don't need to like run after our thoughts or run after our emotions. We can take a break. We can look at our thoughts. That's what we're doing when we name our mind. And we say, okay, maybe this is not that good. This is not good advice for me. Sometimes your mind gives you good advice, right? When you're at a red light and you stop with your car. Thanks, mind. Perfect advice, right? Or when you're in a restaurant, we can go to restaurants and you eat with a knife and a fork. Great advice, right? So our minds are not our enemies. But we do need to distinguish between when it's a good advice and when it's not a good advice. And basically we know when it's good advice, when we actually feel like, actually, I would like to do it, but I'm just really scared. Then go for it. Scary feelings are normal when you do scary things. Yeah. So I heard so all the clients that I work with, I know their minds. We're here with double as much people. We all have our minds, right? So it's really funny. Sometimes people come up with names of characters from, for example, Netflix series, or your annoying aunt that is like, or, you know, it can be anything like, but don't choose a really like nasty name, because our minds are not our enemies. So choose a name you actually feel when it's the right name. It can be like an acquaintance you maybe notice. So Katinka is from someone from my job in my study time when I was like in my 20s, and I worked in a nursery home, and she was a nurse there. And she just looked as if everything was perfect. She was relaxed, she was nice and friendly and really, you know, in control. And my mind is always telling me that I'm not in control. So it popped up like, this is Katinka. I actually really liked Katinka. That's important too. Don't choose a name or someone that you don't have a good vibe with. That's not handy. Because you take your mind everywhere, right? So we're now stuck with our minds forever from now on. And it's funny, so with some people are actually drawing their minds. I have this gymnast, she made a cushion and she takes it with her. You know, it's really handy when you think about how does my mind look like. And sometimes younger people say, it is really strong and it has a really big mouth because it's screaming really loud at me. So you can, cultivate your mind and wear it on a t-shirt, or it's really, Katinka is annoying, but she's also funny, and I'm grateful that she's protecting me. So all good. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sophie, and I'm very happy that you're all sharing your morning with all of us. It's really nice to talk to you. So my talk today is about resilience. Of all the topics we could pick, this one resonated with me the most because someone from Creative Mornings called me and people in my profession the epitome of resilience. And I wanted to be sure exactly what it meant. And I learned that resilience is the ability to bounce back quickly after a stressful event. And I found that very interesting, because that would be the last thing I would say about me, that I cope well with stressful events. I feel that I take things much harder than other people, and criticism hurts me for a longer time. And I fall into despair easily if things go wrong. And I usually can't find my way out of that pit myself, or at least that's what I thought. So how could someone call me resilient? Either they are wrong, or I have changed and I haven't changed my beliefs about myself. So when I was asked to talk about resilience today and share my personal story with you, I thought it would be a perfect opportunity to discover what could have changed for me so that I'm more resilient now than I used to be. So I'll tell you a bit about my past. A few years ago, I was doing a PhD in linguistics. I'd always been really good at learning, and growing up, people would usually praise me for being so smart. I was asked to do a PhD, so I was very flattered, and I thought, yes, I'll do this. But very soon after starting, I realized that I found it a lot more difficult than just being a good student, because nobody ever would tell me exactly what they expected from me. And I was definitely no longer the smartest kid around, because there were so many other smart people around me. I started to feel more and more stupid for the first time in my life. So I started to work really, really hard to keep up. And I was terrified that other researchers would realize that I wasn't so smart. And every time something bad would happen, like my experiment wouldn't work out or my paper wouldn't get accepted by a journal, I would be devastated and humiliated, and so ashamed that I wouldn't dare to go into work for a couple of days or sometimes a month. But I did feel that giving up really wasn't an option, and that I just had to work harder and become stronger and not be so weak. And I got my PhD in the end, just with a whole lot of stress, thanks to my Katinka, I guess. And of course, there were lots of things that I loved about working at university. People are really curious, people are driven by passion, and that's all beautiful. So I actually kept working in academia when I was asked to apply for another job. But I just kept trying to reach some perfect score that was ingrained from me as a young child, I guess. I always used to get top marks, and I felt that I needed to keep doing that, even though there was no top mark in my job anymore. So I kept trying to reach some perfect score that I didn't know exactly what it was. So I kept working really hard. And there came a turning point, and that was when I was asked to coach a colleague who was recovering from a burnout. I had to set her tasks that wouldn't overwhelm her and wouldn't send her into a panic. But she and I realized really quickly after working together that my own symptoms were a lot worse than hers. I would get panic attacks every day. I just really knew very well how to handle them. I knew that there was no actual danger, and I could just keep breathing and I could just continue. And I would more or less bully myself into going back into work and keep working hard. So if you ever need any advice on how to keep on working and going over your own boundaries, I have lots of tips for you. Like if you have a deadline tomorrow, I know exactly how to make you keep working. But I realized that this was actually making me sick, and I went back to therapy. I had had therapy before, of course, trying to finish my PhD. But I discovered that one of the things we hadn't really tackled yet was that I was really afraid to look stupid. And that was maybe the main thing here that was driving me to work so hard. I didn't allow myself to fail at anything. And that made me really embarrassed to ask for help. I would never ask for help. After a lot of therapy sessions, I changed a lot of things, but most importantly, my job. I finally dared to become a full-time musician. I had been playing music before in the weekends and in the holidays and in the evenings, But I didn't dare to do it full time because I didn't think I was good enough. And as a musician, people can no longer tell you're smart just from the job you do. And I guess that was really important to me. And I found it really scary. But as a musician, I was also no longer able to reach a perfect score. There is no perfect score. People's tastes differ, and people like music that they like. And I can't help that. I can't work harder to make you like my style of music. If you're into classical music, I play folk music. And also, I can't change my voice. I can't work harder to make my voice sound. I mean, of course, I can make it sound a little bit better, but if you don't like the tone of my voice, there's nothing I can do. So I can't work harder to be better. So there's just no way I can get this A+ here in music. So that's really different. But there's also something else, I guess, that changed. And I'll talk about what happened after I became a full-time musician. A few months after I started my career as a full-time musician, I got pregnant. And I was a lot more tired, and I could do a lot less than I had planned. And I found it really frustrating. And when I was about to get back into working after my son was born, the pandemic hit, and all of the concerts we had planned were canceled. And me and my musical partner, who I collaborate with most of all, had a plan B. We started working on a new album. And a week before we were supposed to go into the studio, she got diagnosed with cancer. So we couldn't go into the studio. And I can tell you now, she's actually in this call and she's doing a lot better now. She's been operated on. But of course, when I first got that news, I was devastated. And I really didn't know what else I could do. And it took a long time before I thought, okay, I have to do something else. Now I could focus on my solo career. So I wrote some songs myself. And over this winter, I started recording them. And in April, I finally released my first single as a solo artist. And then a month later, someone from CreativeMornings called me resilient. So looking back at everything that happened after I switched careers, I think I do agree, because every time something really stressful happens now, of course, I need some time to process, but there will be a new path in my head. I see a different road I can take. And not just with the big things that I just mentioned, but also with smaller things. Like if somebody doesn't like my song, a radio doesn't get back to me when I send them my song, a concert is canceled. There's always an idea, what can I do now? So how did I become more resilient, apart from getting rid of that perfect score obsession? I found a talk online by a lecturer from the University of Indiana, Tatiana Kolovu, and she says that you can train your resilience muscle by learning new things. Like there are many different things you can do, but one of the main things that struck me was to learn new things, you become more resilient. Because when you learn something new, you will always fail at first. You won't be perfect straight away. So you have to allow yourself to do something badly for a couple times before you will get better. And I have been learning lots of new things over the last 2 years. So apart from learning how to become a professional musician, I've learned to become a mother. I'm also learning Spanish because my son is a quarter Spanish, and all those things really help by allowing yourself to fail. And that is making your bounce back muscles stronger and allowing you to see different paths. So, and also because I'm accepting I won't succeed straight away, I'm no longer so embarrassed that I can't ask for help. And of course, there's still lots of things for me to learn, and I still feel stupid a whole lot. But I think I've realized now that I'm allowed to give it a little bit of time, and that I am allowed to keep growing and reinvent myself. So, but I probably won't get another 7 minutes to talk. So I hope this talk went well the first time around. I think it has been mainly the perception of myself. Before, like in May, we got the newsletter, and there was a playlist with musicians, and Jim Q, who makes those playlists, actually wrote that musicians are the epitome of resilient people because they have to keep reinventing themselves. And then I thought, well, I knew resilience, and I knew, yeah, that it was bouncing back after stressful events. But like I said, I really didn't think that I was able to do that. And only after this Jim Q called me resilient, I looked at my recent approach of dealing with setbacks, and I realized that I have become better at them. But maybe also I allow myself now to feel weak or, be sad for a bit when something bad happens. I think I used to not allow that in myself. So if there was a setback, I just felt so stupid, like my skin is too thin and I can't handle it. And I kept pushing. And now I think, okay, yes, this is bad, this is sad. I'm allowed to grieve a little. And then I think that also helps. I should probably ask my partner this. He'll probably know better, but I sent him away for this talk so I wouldn't get distracted. No, but yeah, well, I think I do feel really stupid if, like, oh yeah, when I released my first single for my album, right, it was in April, and I actually have to admit that I did think, okay, this time I have had lots of time. I will know exactly how to become famous with this song. You know, I'll send it to this and this and this, and I'll get this PR, blah, 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 and then everybody will know my name. And that didn't happen. So yeah, when I released my song, I was really elated for a day. And then it was like, oh, I expected this again. And it's not there. And I felt a little bit of upset. And I have to admit that my partner did tell me then, but look at the process, look at how much you've learned, look how much better this went than the last time you released something. And then I was able to say, yes, okay, you're right, this is going well. To be honest, it was almost no question anymore. Like, I had been dealing with depressive periods and those panic attacks for a long time. And I think I was at such a bottom moment. Like, I was feeling so bad because I had been forcing myself to do stuff that I don't know, I was forcing myself to do other things for so long and didn't think I would be able to be good enough as a musician, and that I could feel physically that there was such a big thing I was pressing away, and I really didn't feel able to keep on going. So in a sense, it wasn't actually a question. But I have to admit that my brother especially really helped when he said that him and my family really didn't care what I did. I guess for some reason, I felt obliged to be a particular person, and maybe a lot of that had to do with what I thought my family expected from me, I suppose. And when my brother said to me, we don't care if you live, you know, if you go live in Spain or on a beach somewhere, it's all fine to us, we love you anyway. And I think that was exactly what I needed. And then I thought, you know, if they really don't care, but I allowed myself to do it a year first. You know, I didn't dare to go straight in. I thought, okay, I'll do it a year. And if I want to go back after a year, I'll do that. But then after a year, I felt like, oh, I don't know if I really tried yet. And I thought I'll allow myself another year. And maybe the longer I keep going, there's no way of going back. But I think I didn't dare to take that full plunge. And I just thought I'll set myself this time frame to be able to try. Yeah, so.
All right, let me start by telling you about a friend of mine. You may relate. She was super hardworking, dedicated so many hours to her work, you know, one of those work hard, play hard. Ran around the office doing all of the things, saying yes, you know, worked out at the gym to like help the pressure, unwound with a glass of wine or three, was in this perpetual cycle of productivity and wearing stress as a badge of honor and pushing to get things done. She was also in a new relationship and began building on that. She had passion projects and side gigs and so many incredible humans that she wanted to spend time with. And she was always on, and she thought she loved it until she didn't. And she began to realize that she wasn't happy. She was tired, foggy-headed, disconnected from her magnetism, her soul, and her heart's desire. And she was really like full of worry and stress and anxiety, and felt in her heart and in her body very imbalanced, and had this kind of like chronic state of stress and didn't quite know how to get out of it. And then her life took a geographical turn as well as a metaphorical one. And she thought, fuck it, let's embrace this with open arms. And so she sat with that. She sat in stillness. She began to meditate. She contemplated, she journaled, she listened. She breathed like for the first time. And she decided that turning inward and asking herself questions was like actually pretty good. She began to read books, she did courses, she educated herself on herself, actually. And she connected with her biology for like the first time. This entire second rhythm that she'd ignored for 15 plus years. And she began to receive. She reconnected to herself and she remembered who the fuck she was. And she noted 3 things that she would, take away and consciously and habitually and powerfully, yet with kindness, come back to. And this was that she would look at stress, anxiety, worry, fear, whatever came up in that arena, square in the eye when it came, when it kind of reared its ugly head. And she'd be radically self-honest about what was causing it and what it was doing to her mind, her body, her soul, her relationship, and her business. And then secondly, she would really love and embrace and embody all of these like rhythms and cycles that were around her. Firstly, as a woman, her intuition, her menstrual cycle, that second clock, which is called the infradian rhythm, the circadian clock rhythm, the lunar cycles, seasons, planets, days of the week, chakras. She would really embrace this. And she thirdly decided that she would really lean into her energy and her energetic makeup, and she would protect her energy quite fiercely, and she would really be honest with herself when her energetic boundaries are being pushed. And she made a decision to like review, refine, remove what no longer served her as and when she needed it. And then she lived happily ever after. All right, okay, maybe she didn't, because life isn't full of like rainbows and butterflies and unicorns, but that became the basis and her foundation and what she revisited on a regular basis. And if you haven't already clicked, that friend is me. And for me, having been part of systems and setups that have gone against my biology, my identity, my energy, and then consciously removing myself from them, the patriarchal approach, and choosing to really live a life and birth creations around my business connected to femininity, to natural cycles and rhythms, to in a very matriarchal way, I can tell you that hand on my heart, this is where the magic really is. And part of what I live by and teach is connecting to my menstrual cycle. However, I completely acknowledge and understand that you may or may not identify with this, whether you do or do not have the biochemical kind of like physical makeup of a woman. You are welcome to connect with this unique gift because it's available to all of us. And if we actually take natural cycle of creation, we are really meant to live in rhythm with it. And when you look at it, it's like from seed to growth to harvest and rest. And we probably can all admit that most of society favors and rewards like productivity and that stress and that badge of like die trying and over creating space and managing our energy over time and honoring like natural cycles. And we're all creative, right? And if there is no space, how can creativity play? How can we birth this? Now, there are so many rhythms and cycles that we can lean on to support our creative expression and flow, which I mentioned earlier. And also quantum physics has shown us that, in fact, nothing is actually solid, solid material, and everything is energy. Therefore, understanding and working with energy, which is available to all of us, is really key. So we all have this available, but how the hell do we use it? And what are they, right? So masculine, that's like the thought, right? It's brilliant, it's necessary, it's like this container, the creator of definition. It carries the feminine, so she can be felt and heard. But on its own, alone, it can be really dominating, very unhealthy, mechanical, results driven and limiting. And the feminine, which is the feeling, it's the magnetism, it's the expansiveness, it's the ability to accept and receive and go with intuition. And she's pretty chaotic without form, right? And she's independent and she's wild and she's powerful and she's limitless and she's like unbound. And alone she can be unrefined and dependent and sporadic. But together with full acceptance of the essence of both. We have like this perfect storm, right? It's the curation of ideas, it's the guidance for intuitive essence. The translation of feminine to the world is perfectly held in and delivered by the masculine, right? The two can work together. They can be limitless, they can be expansive, they can be potent. And we all live on the spectrum of masculine and feminine expression. And it is our responsibility to check in to whether the expression is healthy or unhealthy in its embodiment. And I just want to share an image with you. So this image really, this image shows you the energy centers of the chakra system. So take a look at it and hold it in your mind's eye, right? See the colors and see the positioning. I want to close by sharing how, from a very energetic standpoint, you can use these energy centers to filter through any idea and project to bring it to reality. Okay, so close your eyes. Okay, and take your attention to that head center, to your crown. This is where our ideas drop in. And so when you focus your attention here, an idea can just fall right here. And when that idea comes in, take it to your third eye. Ask yourself, who do I know who's done this before? Do I see myself doing this? Do I have what it takes? And if it's a hell yeah, take it to your throat. Talk to trusted people and loved ones about your idea. Speak out, hear it aloud. Note, don't speak to pessimists who are going to be dismissive. Wrap it up, protect it, let it gestate, write it down, contemplate it, think about it, sit with it, and then move it to your heart space. This is how you feel about it. It's about being really present with how this decision to do this thing is going to affect your life. Feel into it, feel the impact. What does it mean for you? If you get that tick from your heart, you move to your solar plexus. This is your power place. This is like action mode. This is time to get shit done. You work with this energy. And then we move to the sacral, which is the home of creativity and life force, where all passion and creativity lives. And this is how you can bring it into fruition to get the last bits and pieces done of your idea. And then we move it to the root. The root is where we put it out there in the world and it manifests. So when you use this process, you can recognize what is worth pursuing and what isn't. And you can really use this energetic connection with your creativity, and you work with the feminine and the masculine, and you live and create in accordance with this energy that we all have, regardless of, it's not about sex. So I wanted to share that with you because we are all creative people. And I hope that you find this useful. That's it. Thank you. Good question. So the reason why I mentioned so many is because what resonates with one may not resonate with the other, right? So I work very much with my own menstrual cycle. So if you want to start to connect with that, I would ask you a question over like, do you track your cycle? First of all, do you know what your cycle is made up of? So if it was menstrual cycle, I would start to chart my cycle and understand how my body ebbs and flows and really pay attention and become aware. The foundation to any of these cycles that we lean into is awareness. And if you don't bleed, if you don't have a menstrual cycle, you can use the energy of the moon. So those two, I would say, start there. So, you know, if you have a menstrual cycle and you connect with that, use that. And if not, the moon, it's a similar sort of energy. And this is all wisdom that's within. We teach about it, right? Because we're so disconnected from it. But if you just come back into the awareness of your own body, or the way that the moon is, we've just had a full moon. I've been howling at it, you know, last night. And if you start to really lean into that, I have on my Instagram page, like I share a lot of information about how to hone into that, hone into that energy. So I would start by upping the awareness. Yeah. And there's so much wonderful information online for free and podcasts. No, but I actually will be. Not right now, but yes, I will be. So the to talk about how the moon, so new moon is, full moon is not about menstruation. It's actually the equivalent to ovulation. So new moon is is the equivalent to menstruation. I was like, oh, last night, I think I had a bit of that as well. Scary Mary that we were coming on to this, but I could just feel the energy of the moon so much. And when you start to pay attention, you're like, oh, okay. And then you can honor that, right? So it's like, okay, for example, I feel the energy of the moon. I feel quite heightened. How do I harness this energy? How do I create more? How do I use this in my life? And it's going to be different for everyone. So I'd say, like, sit with it and see what comes to you.